Hey everyone, welcome to a really exciting edition to Turban Thinker. So I decided after being basically asked so many questions over such a long time, people are always asking me like, what inspires you, what shaped you, and what made you the person that you are today. So I thought in order to curb those answers, especially because I'm a really private person, and to allow myself the opportunity to share with you a little bit about my background, I created an addition to Turban Thinker called Turn the Table. So Turban Thinker turns the table on me. And basically what this is that I invite my previous guests to interview me. So I said that yesterday to somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, what a cool idea. The hunted becomes the hunter. And so, yeah, I guess if you put it like that, definitely. So I think I need to be in the hot seat to answer all your questions, and it gives you that insight. So today, I decided why not kickstart this edition with none other than someone who's not only a frequent guest, of course, on Turban Thinker and who I respect and admire, but who happens to be an incredibly important friend, actually a best friend in my and my husband's life. So Satyendra Shukla has been with us for around 18 years, and I met him when I was really young and aspiring and ambitious head of accessories for Karen Millen here in London. And he was this very dynamic, incredibly intelligent sourcing manager. And this is how we met in India almost 18 years ago. And so he's really been part of my whole career journey, at least half of it. And he's seen me go from being sort of a creative director, a brand director, all the way to becoming a CEO. And he's seen me in my very, I guess, really important and quite personal moments to me that I don't really share with too many people. So he's seen the journey that shaped me. And so I thought, why not kickstart it with the person who really knows me very, very well. So Satyendra, thank you so much for joining me today on Turn the Table.
Thank you so much, Asil. An absolute pleasure to be here. And
so great.
The most important thing is to actually turn the table on you.
I know, I'm in the hot
Never
seat.
happens.
I know that never happens, but I think it's really important, because I interview people all the time and I'm always hearing their insights, but it's really important because people always sort of message me and they're like, what about you? So it's only fair.
Absolutely, Asil. So first of all, let me begin by thanking you, and it's an absolute pleasure. And I think this entire conversation and this series will help people to get to know much more about you, and also to get a better deep insights on the various thought processes that you have had. Because I know you speak a lot. There are lots of initiatives that you have done, but not many people have those deep insights. So today we are going to probably kickstart that whole process, and for the listeners to get a little bit more deeper understanding about Asil Attar, the Turban Thinker, in a slightly bit more better way.
Yes.
You were born in Iraq. You were raised in UK. You studied in America, and probably you passed out of the college at a very, very young age, and probably at the age of 15. And then you suddenly landed up in one of the most iconic stores in the world at Harrods. So I would like to kickstart by asking you, how did you land up over there? And what kind of footprints it basically have had onto your career? Because the first job is always a special one, right?
Yes. So basically, I think I would have loved to have finished college at 15. I actually finished high school at 15, and I finished college at 18. So basically I was born in Iraq, but I left there when I was around a couple of years old, maybe a year and a half. And I lived in the UK, and basically part of my family was in the US and part of us was in the UK. And sort of we lived between both of the countries, and then I studied in England. So I had a very diverse background, and my father, traveled a lot in his career. So we were traveling as well quite a bit as young children and throughout sort of my teenage years. And so I think that there's a lot to say with why I am the person I am. So also I'm half Indian. I come from a mixed background as well. So from my father's side, I'm Indian. From my mother's side, I'm Iraqi and Persian. So there's a lot of sort of, dynamic household there and lots of diversity in that. So I graduated 15 high school. I think it's because I realized through a conversation that I could, because I found that in the American system, it's a credit system. So I realized that if you gather as many credits as possible, you can actually graduate earlier. And all of my friends when I was a kid were much older than me. So the average age when I was sort of 14, 15, my friends were 20 in their 20s. So I was always a lot more mature in my, I guess, my mannerisms and the way I was. So when I realized I could also graduate, because they started going to university and I was still in 10th grade in high school, and I just thought, I want to be done with this and start my, life in uni and be with my friends. And also there was that ambition, because I just wanted to go on to the next step and go on to the next step. And so basically I worked incredibly hard. I studied all summer school, day in and day out, took my international baccalaureate. I think I studied for like 24 months straight, no summer holiday, nothing, just to gain as many credit points as I could. And then I graduated at 15. It was a really big deal for my school as well. And I think at the time, I was so caught up in I wanted to graduate at 15. Yeah. I wasn't really thinking of, wow, I graduated high school 3 years ahead. Yeah. And I actually started university at 15. I didn't think of it like that. I was just so excited by the fact that I could finally be with my peers, But in hindsight, of course, that was a huge achievement. And then when I got to college, of course, then my friends were, going to be graduating within a year. And I'm like, that's not cool. I want to hang out with you. So guess what? I also went to an American university in London. And I thought, if I gain more credits and if I did the same thing, I can graduate early. And I did that and graduated with my bachelor's at the age of 18 or 19. So, I think that has a lot to do, Sati, with my ambition as well, because before we get to Harrods, I think it's really important to understand it was really difficult for me in my early career, because I would go from job to job within every 2 years. And at the time back then, today, going from job to job is actually seen as a great thing, yes. The younger generation. Yes. Back in my time, when you went from job to job, it wasn't seen as a great thing. They saw it as you move around too much, you're not committing. But for me, people didn't understand. I was like that when I was 10. I was like that when I was 12. I was like that when I was 15. So it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying the job or I wanted to finish it or I wasn't committed. It's because I did my thing. I gained all the knowledge I got, and then I wanted to move on. And when I felt like I pretty much learned everything, my hunger to want to learn more led me. And so that's a really key important thing and to talk about, because then people will and then they understood as I grew in my career. They're like, oh, okay, we get it, because you were like that from when you were a kid. You learn, you deliver, you achieve, you work hard, you move on and move on. Whereas other people will take a job and they'll stick to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and then you land up at Harrods.
And then I land up at Harrods for a number of reasons. I landed actually, first before Harrods, I had my own business. Because when I graduated at 19, I thought I graduated in interior design with a bachelor's in interior design, not fashion design, because fashion design was all about sewing. I wanted to do fashion, but it was all about sort of the sewing and the technical, not so much the brand side. And I didn't have the patience to sit and stitch and cut patterns, I just wanted to learn the history of fashion. I wanted to get into the branding, but back then you had limited degree options, in the arts world. Yes. And so interior design was the next best thing, and it was more structured as well, and it was architectural based, so it is what I actually studied. So when I graduated, I had my own interior design business for a number of years, actually, until I was in my sort of mid-20s. So again, like 18, 19, I was like this ambitious entrepreneur, I didn't go get a job. I thought, no, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to learn. I'm going to set up my own business. And so I went to Harrods the first time, for a completely other reason, but that pushed me on a personal level to really go out and want to learn. And I sat down and I thought, well, where on earth could I go to that would teach this ambitious person the best of everything? Like, where could I go to? And I didn't want to continue learning. It's not like I wanted to go back to college or study business. I didn't want to do that. So I thought, well, where is it? I was living in London, where is this iconic institution that I could go and learn the best of brand, the best of different brands, the best experience? And of course, Harrods, right? I mean, it's so amazing. It was the only one store in the world, and it had thousands of incredible brands, and it was owned by Mohammed Al Fayed, and they were like doing all these renovations, and it was this really exciting time. So I thought, okay, Harrods it is, but then where do I start? And as ambitious as I was, Sati, I was also very mindful that I didn't know anything about the business.
Yes.
So, I didn't go in with this misconception that just because I had my own business for a number of years didn't mean I had experience in what Harrods was going to give me. And I think that's the other thing as well with the new gen. You have this ambition that you want to be manager when you graduate college. You want to slide right into a role just because you have an MBA. You can, but and I'm always like, when I'm coaching designers or young gen, I'm always saying, no, even if you had a PhD, you have to start from the bottom to learn. And so for me, it was very conscious that I needed to be on the shop floor. Of course, how do you enter Harrods?
Right.
You enter as a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did. I went, and back then there was no sort of recruitment agencies and jobs online. I mean, it was traditional. You go to their offices and you stand in a queue and you fill out this really long recruitment, paper. And then when I walked into their recruitment office, there were hundreds of young people standing around wanting a job at this place. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And initially I was like, this is crazy. I'm never going to get a job. Most of them would probably have experience. Even as a salesperson, you need experience.
Yeah.
And so I thought, wow, how am I going to do this? I mean, so I filled it out and I hung around for hours waiting. And then, the junior HR person comes and like sees your history and whatever. And then I grabbed that opportunity and I was like, I really want to do this. I'm ambitious. I've done this. I've had my own business. I graduated this. I can, just give me this chance. And of course, Harrods was one place employed like maybe 3,000 people, and they had 10,000 applicants a day. I mean, it was crazy. And so I really convinced this, young lady to really give me a chance, and I proved myself. And obviously she could see I was intelligent and ambitious, and then basically, I got the job as a salesperson there.
And I think, taking from there, Asil, I think that Harrods' starting point and the experience laid down the biggest foundation for your career. What you learn from there is what you have applied over the years, right? And I think as you moved away from Harrods, you went from one position to another position throughout your career, right? Taking that experience from you and building onto that, right? And you reached a position where you were heading the bigger companies. And that's very, very important for us to talk about how important is that journey to start from the bottom and to keep going up, to be learning. It means it's always a learning curve, even when you're at the top of the position. So how has been this entire experience of yours moving across to the various positions across various organizations?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when I went in as a salesperson, all I wanted to be was the best salesperson.
Yeah.
Like at that moment, I knew that, first of all, I was really lucky I got the job, so there's no way I was going to risk losing it. The salary was like $12,000 a year. So I was earning maybe whatever, $800 a month,
yeah.
working like 6 days a week. And
Yeah.
retail is tough, and as a salesperson, you're standing on the shop floor all day long, and you have to have a smile on your face all day long.
Yeah.
But what was the most amazing thing about Harrods is that I knew that if I joined them, they were going to, like I said, it was like its own university. And basically, actually, before you even go into the world of Harrods, you don't even get to go there. They take you to another building where their training facility is. And you spend 2 weeks there. You don't even touch the floor. You don't even go through that entrance. You're not even privileged to go into the world of Harrods. And they had the most incredible trainers, Sati. They came from the world of entertainment, from education. They were like these amazing characters. And every single day, you would go and attend, and they would train you on the world of Harrods, what it meant to be as a Herodian, how you were to act, how you walk, how you talk, etiquette, culture. They taught you about how to finish and complete a sentence. I mean, that training Harrods gave back then was insane. Only when you graduated from that academy of training were you allowed. And when you went to the shop floor, you didn't serve a customer. You stood by the side of a buddy and you watched. So what Harrods did was allowed you to understand the excellence of selling. You don't, today you go and get a job as a salesperson, you're on the shop floor immediately. Like, you join a business and they'll put you on the shop floor. If you're lucky, you have a great manager who might coach you. Harrods, you don't touch nothing. Unless you live that, they teach you the history of Harrods, when Harrods started, why it started, the 500 brands under that roof, the importance of Harrods Christmas in August, the importance of the food hall, how their tea is made. You have to learn, because as a salesperson, one of the most common questions I used to be asked is, where are the toilets and how do I get to Harrods World? So we had to study the map of these 5 floors, every single room. It's crazy. So, and I knew that going in as a salesperson, that would be the investment. Though the salary was nothing, I knew that my learning would be huge. And that was paramount to my learning of the importance of training, but also the importance of brand experience. That in order to understand brand, you have to really study it. And then you can't even be part of it until you experience it. I think that was really important. And then the other thing Harrods taught me was, Hamad al-Fayed at the time was, this was me, because I went back to Harrods again as a buyer. But as a salesperson, Hamad al-Fayed was, of course, the chairman. And what he taught me in this magical world of Harrods was the importance of people. Every single day when he was in town, he would basically walk the 5 floors with his team, his leadership team, and he knew the name of every single individual in every single floor. And he would come in and say, good morning, John, good morning, Essie, good morning, Tracy, good morning. And then we would stand like soldiers. They would say the chairman is coming round. All the staff would stand completely like, we had an etiquette. You can't stand with your arms to the side. You have to stand with the arms to the back. We had all these things. And when you knew he was coming around, you hoped, please let him stop and speak to me. It was such a big deal for us. Like, as salespeople, our chairman was coming around and the directors with him. And you just prayed that he would notice you and you'd have a moment. But when he'd come around, it was so cool, because the first thing you hear was the bagpipes. He was in love with Scotland. And so before he comes into any space, you'd hear these incredible sound of the bagpipes. He was all about theater and drama and experience. And that's what the other thing Harrods taught me. So when we hear the bagpipes, and I don't know if you've ever heard that sound.
Yes, I have.
It's the most incredible authentic sound, it's like mesmerizing. So literally, it's like you're hearing this sound, and then, you know, he comes around, and as he's coming towards you, you see him stop with every customer, speak to every customer, ask if they had children. He always had like a pocket full of sweets in his pocket, and he'd take a lollipop out, speak to the children, listen to and the customers would be like, I ordered a sofa 5 weeks ago, I haven't received it. And they're talking to the chairman, you know. And then you have tourists saying, you know, can I take a photo with you? And he always was available. Like, you know, when there was a complaint, he genuinely personally took care of it. When someone wanted to take a photo with him, he'd stand there, and then at the same time have attention to every single salesperson. And he'd walk the floor and point out, you know, that needs to be done, that needs to be cleaned, we need to change that. He was fully vested. So one of my other biggest learnings is, one was investment in your people, as in the training. And then the other thing is, I used to stand there and think, my ambition is to be a CEO. I want to be a chairman. And when I'm a chairman, I want to do that. I want to go and connect with my teams and be on the floor and remember their names. And, you know, and a lot of people have a very different perception media played on the Defied. You know, there was a very different angle that people saw of him, but what we saw of him was very different. You know, a very generous, considerate man. And so I guess in hindsight, he was my like sort of indirect mentor that also taught me. But then I was, you know, lucky enough to then go back again and then actually work with him, which was amazing. So that's the beauty of Harrods, Sati. That really shaped my understanding of, you know, retail, brand experience, the magic of delivering something special, and the connection of your teams. That experience, and I got all of that as a salesperson. I mean, but you have to be open. There were other salespeople who would come to Harrods and they'd be backpacking through Europe, and they'd be like, I'm going to stop here, get it on my CV. But I went in thinking, I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can, even as a salesperson, you know?